Chapter 11. Cursed Campfire Stories. It started like every other trip. Late arrival, tents pitched in the blue-gray light of dusk, the familiar crackle of a fire catching at last, and the sharp hiss of beer cans opening around its glow. The forest was calm, the trees tall and whispering in a wind that barely stirred the leaves. Their site sat at the end of a forgotten logging trail, far enough off the grid that the ranger station didn't even have a number for it anymore. Perfect for a weekend of total disconnection. "Okay, that's pretty damn perfect," Jules said, grinning as she dropped into a folding chair and held her hands to the fire. Next to her, Aaron fed another chunk of pine into the flames. Sparks jumped, the logs shifted. The fire seemed to pulse, not just grow, but lean forward for a second, as if listening. None of them noticed. "So who's got the first story?" Max asked, popping a marshmallow onto a stick. "Let me guess," said Tasha from across the circle. "You brought one of your long-ass Appalachian ghost tales." Max grinned. "You know I did." "Let's maybe not start with something that'll keep me up all night," Jules offered, tugging her flannel tighter. "You camped on Devil's Thumb Ridge and you're afraid of stories?" Max laughed. "She's right to be cautious," Aaron said, voice quieter. He was staring into the fire like it held something more than flame. "Oh great, here he goes," Tasha rolled her eyes. But Aaron didn't joke. He looked around the circle, his expression unusually sober. "Have you ever heard about this fire pit?" "You mean this one? Is this the part where you tell us it's built on a mass grave or whatever?" Aaron's eyes didn't leave the flames. "No joke. My cousin used to work fire control out here a few summers ago. Said there's a campsite up this way. No one's sure who built it. The stone ring's too perfect, like literally. Not eroded, not weathered, just placed. And every time someone tries to dismantle it, it's back the next day, like it wants to be here." Max gave a mock shiver. "So naturally, we chose this exact one." Tasha chuckled and raised her beer. "To poor decision-making." The cans clinked, the fire crackled, and the air grew just a little heavier. The stories began like they always did. Light, spooky, silly even. Jules told a story about a faceless man who mimicked your voice until he became you. Max went next with a Civil War soldier who stalked through fog looking for the rest of his regiment. Tasha shared a tale of a crying baby in the woods who turned out to be a spider with human eyes. The fire listened. Aaron stayed quiet. When it came to his turn, he shook his head. "Not tonight," he said. "Oh, come on," Max said. "You're the one who started all this with the cursed fire ring crap." Aaron glanced at the flame again. "Exactly." But Jules prodded him, and eventually he gave in. He leaned forward and cleared his throat. "Fine, I'll tell one," he said. "But if any of you dream about it later, it's not my fault." Max made an exaggerated cross over his heart. "We accept the risk." Aaron spoke in a low, steady voice, not dramatic, not animated, just certain, like he was reading from memory. 3 campers hike up to a ridge. The night's clear, the woods are still, and when they light a fire, they don't realize they've stepped into a place that doesn't just hear stories, it keeps them, traps them like insects in amber. "Is this meta?" Tasha asked. Aaron continued. "Each tell a story, one by one, and each time they do, the fire learns a little more. It listens, it absorbs, and after a while, the fire starts to speak back, not in words, in moments, in echoes, until what was once pretend becomes real." The fire popped sharply. No one laughed. A breeze stirred the trees behind them, strong enough to send dry needles falling like rain. Aaron looked at each of them in turn. And then the campers realize they can't stop telling stories, not because they want to, but because the fire won't let them leave until the tale is done, until the fire has burned it into the world. A long silence followed. Even Max didn't joke. Then Jules broke it. "Okay, creepy." Aaron sat back. "Told you." They changed the subject, talked about school, the drive up, which horror movies were actually scary. Tasha mentioned she'd heard wolves earlier, but no one else had. They roasted more marshmallows, opened another round of drinks, and by midnight they all felt that slow, aching pull of exhaustion. "All right," Jules said, stretching. "I'm calling it." Max nodded. "Yeah, agreed. I'm not trying to fall asleep in this chair again." They doused the fire with their water bucket, watched the flames hiss and die, then drifted to their tents, the laughter quieter now, the woods pressing a little closer. The coals glowed for a long time after, longer than they should have, and just before the last ember faded, the fire pit blinked red, like it was winking. Max woke to the sound of footsteps. Not the crunching kind. These were soft, pads on moss, something moving slow, close. He sat up, squinting at the tent wall. The fire had definitely gone out. No glow seeped in, just the black outline of trees against moonlight. Then a whisper, low, unmistakable. His voice. "Guys, I think I saw something out there." Max froze, because he hadn't said that tonight, not even once. Another voice followed. "Let it in." Aaron's voice, calm, distant. Max scrambled for his flashlight and flicked it on. Nothing. No shadows, no movement, but the sound continued, around the tent now, circling. Jules screamed from her tent. Max bolted. By the time he unzipped and tumbled outside, Jules was already crawling out of hers, pale, shaking. "Something was in my tent. It touched my leg. I thought it was a raccoon, but it breathed." Aaron and Tasha emerged seconds later. They were all out of breath, all tense. The fire pit remained cold and dead, but someone had rebuilt it. The stones had been rearranged, taller, wider. No one had touched them, yet now they stood in a perfect circle, 6 feet across. Inside the ring, not ash, but coal-black glass, like the heat had melted stone itself. Aaron stepped forward slowly. Did anyone wake up and rebuild this? No one spoke. From the woods behind them came a sound. Not an animal, not the wind. A soft, rhythmic clap, like applause from too many hands. Max stepped away from the stone ring slowly, his breath visible in the suddenly chilled air. The fire had gone out hours ago, and yet the pit now radiated heat. The rearranged stones glowed faintly, red veins pulsing like something breathing just beneath their surface. Tasha crouched beside the pit and touched one of the new stones with the back of her hand. She hissed, jerking away. "That's hot. That's like oven hot." Aaron circled to the far side. "It's different, wider, taller. And these stones," he pointed at the inner wall where blackened etchings had begun to form. They weren't there earlier. Now they showed faces, melting, screaming, some familiar, others impossibly twisted. "Okay," Jules said, backing away. "We didn't do this. We didn't build that. I'm officially not okay with this anymore." "You think someone snuck in?" Max offered, though his voice was flat with disbelief. Tasha shook her head. "Then why the voices? Why did I hear Aaron saying something I swear he never said?" Aaron's eyes narrowed. "What exactly did it say?" Max looked at him. "It was your voice, said 'let it in,' right before Jules screamed." Aaron didn't respond. He stared at the fire pit again. A gust of wind pushed through the clearing, scattering dry needles, rustling the trees like whispers. For a split second, the glow in the stone pit flared, then settled again. "I think it's copying us," Jules said, her voice small. Like it's building something with our stories." Tasha turned sharply. "That spider baby thing was a joke." "Yeah, but I heard something crying outside my tent before it touched me. Max stepped closer to the group. So we stopped telling stories. That's it, right? No more fuel, no more fire. Aaron's jaw clenched. It's not that simple. We already fed it. It's not just copying the stories, it's making them. Then what do we do? Jules snapped. Just sit here and wait for it to build a frickin' Slender Man out of pine needles? No one had an answer. That's when the crying started again. Faint, from the trees behind Jules' tent. A baby, soft and wet and not right. Too many lungs, too many layers. A sobbing, ragged whimper that somehow felt older than anything human. Jesus Christ, Max whispered. They turned slowly toward the sound. The forest stood still, but the darkness between the trees shifted like something was crawling just out of sight. A flash of pale limbs, a dragging motion, something low to the ground, hunched but fast. I'm not waiting here to get hunted by my own made-up story, Tasha said, backing toward her tent. I'm packing my shit and leaving tonight. You can't navigate that trail in the dark, Aaron said, even with headlamps. I'll take my chances with broken ankles over demon babies, thanks. She yanked her duffel out of her tent and started packing fast, nearly tearing the zipper on her jacket in her rush. Jules grabbed her own light, still trembling, while Max fumbled for the map and keys. Then the crying stopped. So suddenly it made them all freeze. The silence that followed wasn't normal. It felt shaped, manufactured, like the forest was drawing in breath. Then came the sound of crawling. Not footsteps, hands, fingers, too many of them. They all turned just in time to see the figure emerge from the shadows. It had the rough proportions of a baby, small, low, trembling limbs, but its face was human. Not just human, familiar. A flattened, wide-eyed mimic of Tasha's own face stared back at them, its eyes glistening, jaw slack. Tiny human hands, 8 of them, clawed the ground as it scrambled forward with jerking, insect-like spasms. Tasha shrieked. Max dropped the map and backed up hard into a tree. The creature opened its mouth and it screamed in her voice. I'm not afraid, it's just a story. The mimic screamed the same sentence again and again, each time more distorted, more cracked. Tasha bolted. She didn't make it 10 feet before the thing launched after her, crawling with impossible speed. She tripped, and it landed on her back, all hands digging into her coat, clawing at her shoulder blades with fingernails like tiny knives. "Tasha!" Jules screamed, running forward, but Aaron caught her arm. "No, don't!" Tasha rolled over, screaming, and the thing peeled open like a flower, its soft back splitting into 6 long, petal-like limbs. Beneath was bone, not hers, arranged like a cage, and at the center, something else, a second face, eyeless, yawning wide. It bit her. There was a wet crunch. Blood sprayed. Her scream broke into choking sounds. Max threw a rock. It bounced off the creature with no effect. It didn't even flinch. It continued absorbing her, dragging her by the spine toward the edge of the forest. Jules sobbed, covering her mouth. Aaron reached into his pack and pulled out a hatchet. "Fire," he said. "It started with the fire. That's where we take it back." "What?" said Max, breathless. "We put out the stories, one by one. We make the fire forget." "That doesn't make any sense. Neither does any of this." Aaron didn't wait. He sprinted back to the pit. It still glowed faintly. He stood over it, raised the hatchet high, and brought it down on one of the stones. The blade rang out, metal on something not quite rock. The pit let out a shriek, not from the impact, but from the stone itself. The faces etched on it writhed, their mouths opened and screamed. Ash exploded outward in a sharp burst of heat. Aaron was thrown backwards, skidding across the dirt. Max and Jules ran to him. He was bleeding from the nose and ears, but conscious. Jules crouched. "Are you okay?" He nodded. "It's protecting itself.
The pit is alive. Max looked around the campsite, eyes wild. Where's the spider baby thing? Gone. No trail. No blood. Tasha's pack lay open beside her tent. Her flashlight was on, beam aimed into the woods like a silent alarm. She's gone, Jules said softly. Max grabbed a stick from the firewood pile and wrapped the end in his extra shirt, dousing it with fuel from the camp stove. If we can't break the stones, we burn it. He lit it and stepped toward the pit. The air resisted, literally pushed back against him, like walking into heavy water.
He leaned into it, teeth clenched, and jammed the burning torch into the center of the pit, into the coal glass ash. The flame hissed, and then sank. Not burned out, not smothered, sank, pulled into the black. The torch vanished, and the flame disappeared with a low, sucking sound, as if the pit had eaten it whole. Max stumbled back. We can't fight this. Aaron stood slowly, wiping blood from his face. No, but maybe we can finish the story. What? Jules asked. We complete the cycle. We close the narrative. Maybe then it lets us go. Max frowned. You want us to what? Tell more stories? Aaron pointed at the stones. It's already telling them for us. The only way to stop it is to finish what it started. Jules' voice cracked. You want us to narrate our way out of a nightmare? Aaron looked grim. Better than waiting to be rewritten. Max paced, dragging his hair through his head. Okay, let's say we try this insane plan. What kind of story do we tell? Jules answered without hesitation. We tell it a story about itself. They all looked at her. We tell the story of the fire, of what it did and how it dies. Aaron nodded. They sat down in front of the pit again. Max lit a single lantern and placed it near the edge, casting long shadows across the trees. Jules spoke first. This is the story of the cursed fire that took our friends and turned our words into monsters. Aaron picked it up. And how the fire grew strong by feeding on fear and memory and the breath of the living. Max added next, until the day came when it burned too bright, when it reached too far. Jules again. And the people it tried to consume fought back, not with weapons, but with the truth. The pit rumbled, faintly at first, then deeper, like thunder under their feet. Aaron leaned forward. And they told the fire it was a lie, that it wasn't a god, that it was just ash and stone, and it would forget like all stories do. The black glass in the pit cracked. A hairline fracture shot through the center, glowing bright orange. Max stood now, shouting the words. They finished the story, and they ended the fire. The pit screamed again, this time louder. The glow pulsed wildly, the stone spirals convulsing, the forest groaned, trees bent inward, wind howled like 1,000 distant voices. The fire pit imploded. It didn't explode, it collapsed in on itself, the stones folding inward, the black glass melting, sucking in the heat, the air, the sounds, all of it drawn into a single point that blinked out like a dying ember. And then, silence. The wind stopped. The forest held still. No screams, no creatures, no crying. Just the cold bite of night air and the soft crackle of leaves underfoot. Max turned to the others, still breathing hard. Is it over? Aaron looked at the shattered circle. I think we ended the story. Jules didn't speak. She was staring into the trees. Aaron followed her gaze. So did Max. A pale shape stood just inside the tree line. Long-limbed, mouth open, fingers writing in the air, etching spirals. It was listening, still.
Thank you for listening to this story. Your support means a lot and helps keep these tales coming. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and follow for more dark and immersive stories just like this one. New horrors await. Don't miss what's coming next.